Have you ever felt like your mind just won't stop racing? Like a whirlwind of thoughts spinning faster than you can process. What ifs, should haves, what now? You try to rest, but your brain replays conversations, imagines worst-case scenarios, and analyzes every decision as if peace depends on finding the perfect answer. This is overthinking, and in today's world, it's not rare. It's the norm. In a society that never stops moving, overthinking feels like a silent epidemic. We're encouraged to plan, to worry, to obsess over outcomes we can't control. The result? A life filled with anxiety, indecision, and mental fatigue. But what if the answer isn't more thinking, but better thinking? What if the wisdom to calm your mind came from a Roman emperor? Marcus Aurelius, ruler of the vast Roman Empire, faced pressures we can hardly imagine: war, betrayal, death, and the constant burden of power. Yet in the quiet of his private reflections, he wrote a series of notes to himself that we now know as meditations. These writings were never meant for the world to see, and yet they offer some of the most profound guidance for those of us trapped in our own heads. In this video, we're going to explore how Meditations by Marcus Aurelius gives us practical tools to quiet the noise, calm the mind, and return to what matters. His Stoic philosophy teaches us how to untangle our thoughts, take control of our focus, and live with deeper clarity. You don't need to be a philosopher. You just need to be ready to reclaim your peace. So take a breath, let the noise settle, and let us begin the journey from overthinking to understanding. Part 1. What is overthinking? The modern mind in chaos. We live in an age where our minds are never still. We wake up to the buzz of alarms, check notifications before our feet touch the floor, and scroll through a flood of updates before we've even had our first sip of coffee. By the time the day begins, we're already swimming in noise, and the thoughts, they never stop. Overthinking is not simply thinking too much. It is thinking without clarity, worrying without direction, analyzing without resolution. It's a mental loop, a hamster wheel of thought that spins without moving forward. Overthinking drains our energy, steals our peace, and leaves us feeling stuck, as if we're trapped in our own heads with no way out. We overthink the past, rehashing conversations, decisions, or mistakes we can no longer change. We overthink the future, imagining 1,000 possible outcomes, none of which we can control. And in doing so, we completely lose the present moment. In a culture that idolizes productivity and information, it's easy to confuse overthinking with being thorough or responsible. But there's a quiet cost. When we stay stuck in the mental noise, we become anxious, restless, and overwhelmed. Our ability to act, to feel grounded, even to enjoy life, slips through our fingers. Now imagine this. A man ruling the largest empire in the ancient world, surrounded by war, facing death, watching friends betray him, loved ones die. Every decision he made carried the weight of millions. And yet, he wrote words that sound as if they were meant for us, for this moment. In Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, we find wisdom not shaped by comfort or convenience, but forged in the fire of real pressure. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote, short and simple, cuts through the fog. It reminds us that the chaos around us, and even within us, is not what defines us. It's what we do with that chaos that matters. Marcus Aurelius knew what it meant to overthink. He felt a pull of fear, of anger, of uncertainty. But through the Stoic lens, he trained his mind to come back to what is essential, to see clearly, to act deliberately. In today's world, his advice is not just helpful, it's essential. Because when we're caught in overthinking, we're not really living. We're paused, paralyzed by fear, regret, or the illusion of control. But Marcus teaches us that clarity is possible, and that a peaceful mind begins with learning how to see, how to separate what is within our power and what is not. Overthinking thrives in confusion, but Stoicism thrives in clarity. And clarity, as Marcus reminds us, is not something you wait for. It's something you create by training your mind, mastering your perspective, and coming back to the present moment again and again. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is not a rule book. It's a conversation, a guide from one human being to another, reaching across centuries to say, you are not alone. You can overcome this. In the sections to come, we'll dive into the exact Stoic tools Marcus used to calm his mind. We'll explore how to apply them to your own life, and how even in a noisy, chaotic world, you can find stillness. You don't have to silence your thoughts, but you can learn to listen differently. Part 2. The Stoic View. Understanding your mind through Marcus' eyes. To understand how to calm your mind, we must first understand why our minds become overwhelmed in the first place. In the chaos of overthinking, there's often a deeper cause, the way we relate to our thoughts. In the modern world, we often let our thoughts control us. We allow ourselves to become attached to them. When a worry arises, we let it spiral into fear. When a regret surfaces, we linger on it, as if it can still change the past. We judge ourselves for what we think, and we try to wrestle with our inner turbulence, hoping that somehow, through more thought, we'll find peace. But what if this approach is backward? What if the key to a calm mind isn't more thinking, but less attachment to our thoughts? This is the heart of Stoicism, the philosophy that Marcus Aurelius lived by and wrote about in his reflections. Stoicism doesn't teach us to avoid emotions or deny our thoughts. It doesn't ask us to suppress our inner world. Instead, Stoicism teaches us to view our thoughts, emotions, and circumstances from a different perspective, one that empowers us to act wisely, rather than be swept away by the tide of our mind. The Stoic mind, clarity through detachment. One of Marcus Aurelius' most powerful insights in Meditations is the idea that our minds are often our worst enemies. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." At first glance, this may sound like a simple reminder to stay positive, but it's much deeper than that. Marcus isn't telling us to ignore the storms of life. He's telling us that while we can't control the external world, we have the power to control how we respond to it. And this, in turn, affects the quality of our thoughts. When we're caught up in overthinking, it's easy to feel that our thoughts have control over us. But Marcus Aurelius teaches us that we don't have to be slaves to our thoughts. The mind, like any other tool, can be trained. We can learn to observe our thoughts without becoming attached to them, without letting them define us. For Marcus, the key to a peaceful mind was detachment, not from life itself, but from the constant need to control every outcome, to judge every thought, or to obsess over every decision. A thoughtful distance, the power of mindful observation. In his writings, Marcus often speaks about seeing things for what they truly are. In Meditations, he writes, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This is a radical shift in perspective. Instead of assuming that every thought we have is a reflection of reality, Marcus teaches us to approach our thoughts with mindful observation. We don't need to immediately react to every passing worry, doubt, or fear. We can pause and ask ourselves, is this thought serving me? The Stoic practice of mindfulness is not just about awareness. It's about choosing how we respond to that awareness. When you're overwhelmed with worry, remember that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. This mental distance is incredibly powerful. It doesn't eliminate the thought, but it reduces its power over you. When we overthink, it's often because we're lost in the assumption that every thought must be acted upon. But what if we took a step back? What if we let thoughts come and go, like clouds passing through a clear sky? What if we didn't hold on to them, but simply let them move through? The role of rationality, seeing clearly amidst the noise. The Stoic view of the mind also emphasizes the importance of rationality. In Meditations, Marcus wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When we overthink, we lose touch with rationality. We let irrational fears, anxieties, and assumptions cloud our judgment. But by applying the Stoic principles of reason, we regain control. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our minds have the capacity for clear, rational thought. We are not destined to be slaves to erratic emotions. Instead, we are capable of choosing how we interpret events, and therefore, how we respond. How the Stoic mindset helps with overthinking. So how does Marcus' Stoic mindset help us manage overthinking? Separation from emotion. Instead of letting emotions dictate our thoughts, Stoicism teaches us to recognize emotions, but not to be controlled by them. This creates space between our thoughts and feelings. Reflection, not reaction. Overthinking often leads to impulsive reactions. Stoicism encourages reflective action, taking a pause before acting on our emotions or fears. Control the controllable. The Stoic mindset focuses on what is within our control, our thoughts, responses, and actions, and encourages us to let go of what is beyond our control. In essence, Marcus Aurelius teaches us that to calm the mind, we must first see it clearly. By applying Stoic principles, we can learn to detach from thoughts that don't serve us, act with reason, and regain control over our mental landscape. Part 3. Practical Stoic Tools for Quieting the Mind. Now that we understand the Stoic view of the mind and how overthinking can disrupt our peace, it's time to explore practical tools from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius that help us manage our thoughts and find tranquility in our daily lives. Stoicism is not just a philosophy, it's a practice, a way of life that can transform how we approach our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. 1. The practice of negative visualization. One of the most powerful Stoic practices that Marcus Aurelius writes about in Meditations is negative visualization. The act of imagining the worst-case scenario, not as a way to dwell in negativity, but as a way to prepare the mind for life's inevitable uncertainties. This practice may seem counterintuitive when thinking about quieting the mind, but it actually helps reduce the power of overthinking. Marcus advises that we reflect on the things we fear or desire and visualize the loss of these things. For example, think about what would happen if you lost your job, your health, or your loved ones. By imagining these worst-case scenarios, you can strip them of their power over you. You realize that even if these things occur, you can handle them. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, Book 4. The power of negative visualization is not in focusing on fear, but in releasing attachment to things outside of our control. By accepting that things may go wrong, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of worry and overthinking. Instead of anticipating catastrophe, we learn to accept impermanence and gain strength in knowing we can endure life's challenges. 2. The practice of daily reflection and journaling. Another tool Marcus Aurelius used to keep his mind clear and grounded was journaling. Throughout his meditations, we see that Marcus dedicated time each day to reflect on his thoughts, actions, and responses. He wrote down his reflections to help guide his actions, refine his thinking, and cultivate inner peace. By journaling, Marcus was able to clear his mind of the clutter and focus on the present moment. When we overthink, we often carry multiple competing thoughts in our minds, making it difficult to focus. Writing down our thoughts can help us externalize our mental clutter, providing clarity and a sense of control. You can rid yourself of many unnecessary things. Take away what's superfluous, and you will have everything you need. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, Book 4. In the same way that Marcus wrote down his reflections to make sense of his inner world, we too can use journaling as a tool to manage our thoughts. By acknowledging our worries, doubts, and fears on paper, we create space for rational thinking. We stop the mental loops that often arise from overthinking and give ourselves permission to simply be present. 3. The dichotomy of control. One of the core tenets of Stoicism that Marcus Aurelius emphasizes is the dichotomy of control, the idea that some things are within our control and others are not. In Meditations, Marcus frequently reminds himself that he cannot control other people, events, or outcomes, but he can control how he reacts. When we overthink, it's often because we're trying to control things outside of our influence. We worry about what others think of us, about outcomes we can't predict, or about things that haven't even happened yet. By practicing the dichotomy of control, we can refocus our energy on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and responses. Focus on what is within your control and let go of the rest. Your mind will find peace when you stop worrying about the things you cannot change. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, Book 6. By reminding ourselves of this dichotomy, we can reduce unnecessary stress and the mental clutter that comes with it. We can stop trying to control the uncontrollable and direct our focus to what is within our power. This practice helps us live more peacefully, free from the anxiety of overthinking. For reframing and cognitive restructuring, another tool Marcus Aurelius employs in his writings is cognitive reframing, the ability to change the way we perceive a situation. When faced with adversity, Marcus consistently tells himself to see the world in a different light. Instead of focusing on how unpleasant or difficult a situation is, he encourages us to see these events as opportunities for growth. In Meditations, Marcus writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This powerful Stoic practice allows us to challenge negative thoughts and reframe our experiences. When we overthink, we often amplify the negative aspects of a situation. Reframing allows us to change our perspective, which in turn helps us overcome the cycle of overthinking. For example, if you're anxious about a work project, instead of thinking, "This is overwhelming," you can reframe it as, "This is an opportunity to learn and grow." By shifting your perspective, you free yourself from the grip of overthinking and allow yourself to act with clarity and purpose. 5. Mindful acceptance of impermanence. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius continually reminds himself of the impermanence of life. He observes that everything is temporary: thoughts, emotions, people, circumstances, and even life itself. This insight helps him accept the present moment as it is, without overthinking it. The practice of accepting impermanence can be a powerful antidote to overthinking. When we accept that everything is temporary, we stop overvaluing things that ultimately don't matter. We stop clinging to our worries, our fears, and even our successes. By embracing the fleeting nature of life, we allow ourselves to experience peace in the here and now. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, Book 4. By acknowledging the temporary nature of our thoughts and emotions, we allow ourselves to experience the present moment more fully. We learn to let go of thoughts that no longer serve us, creating space for inner calm and clarity. These Stoic practices, negative visualization, journaling, the dichotomy of control, reframing, and accepting impermanence, are just a few of the tools that Marcus Aurelius used to quiet his mind and find peace. By incorporating these into our own lives, we can follow his example and find a sense of calm amidst the chaos of overthinking. Part 4. A Stoic daily practice for clear thinking. In the previous parts, we've discussed how Stoic principles, especially those found in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, can help manage the distractions of overthinking and build a foundation of inner peace. But to experience lasting clarity of thought, we must go beyond occasional reflection and consciously integrate these Stoic practices into our daily lives. This is where the Stoic daily practice comes into play. A clear mind is not something that simply happens to us. It's something we must actively cultivate. In this section, we'll explore how a Stoic daily practice can sharpen your thinking, enhance your focus, and quiet the noise in your mind. Drawing inspiration from Marcus Aurelius, we'll break down the key habits and practices that will help you develop clear thinking in your everyday life. 1. Begin with morning reflection, setting your mind for clarity. The Stoic philosopher begins the day with a calm and deliberate morning reflection. This quiet time sets the tone for the day, allowing you to organize your thoughts and confront any distractions or uncertainties that may arise. Marcus Aurelius himself would remind himself every morning of the reality of his responsibilities. I will meet people who are rude, who are self-interested, who will try to disrupt my peace. This acknowledgement helped him prepare mentally for the day ahead. How to apply this practice? Wake up early. Start your day with a moment of stillness. Set aside at least 10 minutes for self-reflection before diving into your tasks. Identify potential distractions. Reflect on the challenges you might face today be it interactions with difficult people or demanding tasks. Visualizing challenges ahead prepares your mind to face them with composure. Set an intention for the day. Decide how you will approach each situation, whether it's focusing on patience, resilience, or detachment from outcomes. By beginning your day with a clear and grounded mindset, you prepare yourself to approach challenges with a clear head, not clouded by emotions or the overthinking that often accompanies them. 2. Practice negative visualization, clarifying what matters. Marcus Aurelius was known for his practice of negative visualization, which involved imagining the worst-case scenario for any situation. Rather than dwelling in fear, this mental exercise helped him prepare emotionally for hardship, ensuring he wasn't blindsided by unexpected events. It also served to sharpen his focus on what really mattered, helping him avoid distractions. How to apply this practice? Visualize potential losses or obstacles. In a calm moment, think about what could go wrong during your day, such as a difficult conversation or an unexpected setback. Imagine how you would respond to these challenges. Shift your focus to gratitude. After visualizing potential difficulties, remind yourself of the things that are going well, what you have, what you can control, and the opportunities ahead. Detach from the outcome. By accepting that you can't control everything, you release the burden of trying to make everything perfect. Focus on your response, not the outcome. This practice isn't meant to instill fear, but to clear your mind of unnecessary worries by confronting them head-on. It creates a sense of control by grounding you in the present moment. 3. The dichotomy of control. Focus only on what you can control. One of the central teachings of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, the idea that we should focus only on what we can control and let go of the rest. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself of this important principle throughout his life. This focus brings clarity by eliminating distractions and sharpening your mental energy on what truly matters. How to apply this practice? Identify what is within your control. Ask yourself, what can I control in this situation? This might be your attitude, your reaction, or the effort you put into your work. Release what's out of your control. For everything beyond your control, other people's actions, future events, etc. Practice detachment. Recognize that worrying about these things is a waste of energy and will cloud your clarity of thought. Revisit regularly. Throughout the day, practice returning to the dichotomy of control. If you find yourself getting bogged down by a situation, remind yourself, what's within my control here? By focusing on what you can influence, you can train your mind to remain calm and unclouded, knowing that you're acting within your circle of influence. This reduces the mental clutter that leads to overthinking. 4. Embrace simplicity. Remove mental clutter. Marcus Aurelius was deeply aware of the need to simplify his thoughts and actions. He wrote often about the importance of avoiding distractions, both external and internal. A cluttered mind, filled with unnecessary worries, detracts from clarity. To think clearly, you need to create mental space by removing the superfluous and focusing on the essential. How to apply this practice? Limit distractions, whether it's digital noise, social media, or unnecessary commitments. Take stock of what's crowding your mental space. Minimize distractions wherever possible. Embrace simplicity. Simplify your daily tasks and actions. When you approach things with intention and focus, your mind becomes clearer. Clarify your values. Reflect on what truly matters to you. Align your actions with your values to create a sense of purpose and prevent mental clutter. By cutting out the excess, you free your mind to think more clearly and focus on what truly matters. The simplicity of a Stoic mindset helps eliminate unnecessary thoughts, keeping you centered and grounded. 5. Reflect and journal. Clear your mind with regular reflection. Marcus Aurelius was an avid journaler, using his writings as a way to reflect on his day, his thoughts, and his experiences. Journaling is a powerful tool for creating mental clarity. It allows you to process your thoughts, address concerns, and explore your emotional state in a structured way. How to apply this practice? Write daily. Set aside time each evening to journal about your day. Focus on how you handle challenges and what you can learn from them. Ask reflective questions. Use your journal as a tool for self-discovery. Ask questions like, what did I learn today? Or, what could I have done differently? Check your emotional responses. Write about any strong emotions you felt during the day. Analyze them without judgment, and try to see them from a Stoic perspective, detached, logical, and calm. By writing down your thoughts, you externalize them, making it easier to gain clarity. This practice also helps you process overthinking and resolve emotional confusion. 6. End the day with gratitude. Shift your focus. At the end of the day, Marcus Aurelius would often reflect on his actions, thoughts, and how well he had practiced Stoic virtues. A gratitude practice is a great way to shift your mind from overthinking and focus on what you have, rather than what you lack. How to apply this practice? Reflect on your day. What went well? What did you accomplish? What are you grateful for today? Express gratitude. Acknowledge both the small and big things in your life that you appreciate, your health, your relationships, or even a small victory at work. Release negativity. End your day with peace, letting go of any stress or frustration from the day. Accept that each day is a learning experience. Ending your day on a note of gratitude not only clears your mind, but also helps you sleep better, knowing that you've lived according to your values and made progress in your personal growth. Part 5. When overthinking returns, what would Marcus do? Despite all the Stoic wisdom, it's inevitable that overthinking will return. Life doesn't always go according to plan, and the pressures and distractions of the modern world are constant. Even Marcus Aurelius, with all his discipline and clarity, would have faced moments of doubt, confusion, and mental turbulence. So, what would Marcus do in such moments? How can we apply Stoic principles to manage and overcome overthinking when it inevitably resurfaces? In this part, we'll explore how to handle overthinking when it arises, using the same Stoic principles that Marcus Aurelius practiced in his life. The key is not to eliminate overthinking entirely. That's impossible for anyone, but to manage it with equanimity, returning to our center with the tools Stoicism provides. 1. Recognize the unnecessary nature of overthinking. The first step when overthinking strikes is to recognize that it's often unnecessary. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that many of the things we worry about either don't happen or don't matter in the long term. In his meditations, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." By recognizing that overthinking often centers around events that may not even come to pass, we can detach from those worries. Overthinking feeds off uncertainty, and often, the more we dwell on a situation, the more complex and magnified it becomes. Recognizing the fleeting and impermanent nature of many of our concerns can help us distance ourselves from excessive thought patterns. How to apply this? Label the overthinking. When you catch yourself overthinking, stop and mentally label it as unnecessary. Remind yourself that this thought does not define your day, nor does it have lasting significance. Reframe your perspective. Challenge yourself to assess whether the issue at hand truly warrants as much mental energy as you're giving it. Often, the most effective way to dispel overthinking is to simply step back and acknowledge its futility. 2. Control your reactions, not the situation. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that while we cannot control the events around us, we always have the power to control our reactions. Overthinking often stems from trying to control the uncontrollable, the actions of others, the uncertainty of the future, or unforeseen challenges. Stoicism teaches us that our peace of mind is dependent on our response, not the events themselves. When overthinking takes over, Marcus would remind us to focus on how we choose to react. The key isn't in trying to control external circumstances, but in controlling our inner peace. If we let our thoughts spiral, we give up our power over the situation. How to apply this? Pause before reacting. When you feel overthinking intensify, take a moment to pause. Breathe deeply and remind yourself that your response is in your hands. Refocus on the present. Reconnect with the current moment. Ask yourself, what is the most constructive and peaceful response to this situation right now? By shifting the focus from external events to our reactions, we regain control over our minds and stop the spiral of overthinking. 3. Use negative visualization to overcome worry. Another powerful Stoic tool is negative visualization, which Marcus Aurelius practiced as a way to prepare for worst-case scenarios. Overthinking often thrives in fear of the unknown, but negative visualization allows us to face these fears head-on and put them in perspective. It's not about dwelling in negativity, but about acknowledging the worst and realizing that we can still endure it. When you feel yourself starting to overthink, try to imagine the worst-case scenario. What would happen if everything went wrong? Often, this exercise reveals that even the worst situations are not as catastrophic as our minds make them out to be. How to apply this? Visualize the worst-case scenario. When overthinking strikes, consciously imagine the worst possible outcome. See yourself facing it, accepting it, and continuing on despite it. Remind yourself of your resilience. After visualizing the worst, remind yourself of your ability to handle adversity. This is a crucial Stoic insight. We have more inner strength than we give ourselves credit for. By practicing negative visualization, we strip overthinking of its power and return to the understanding that we can handle any challenge that arises. 4. Return to the dichotomy of control. As we discussed earlier, the dichotomy of control is a central concept in Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius consistently applied this principle throughout his life, especially when faced with difficult or overwhelming situations. The dichotomy of control teaches us to focus only on what we can influence and release the rest. Overthinking often arises from a feeling of helplessness or a desire to control situations outside our ability. When we catch ourselves in the spiral, we can recenter by asking, what can I control here? And what is beyond my control? This simple question can quickly break the cycle of unnecessary thinking by pointing us back to the present moment. How to apply this? Identify what's within your control. Is there an actionable step you can take right now to improve the situation? If yes, focus on that. If no, then release the thought and let it go. Let go of the uncontrollable. When you recognize that a situation is beyond your control, consciously choose to release it. Understand that worrying about it will not change the outcome. This practice of prioritizing what we can control allows us to return to a place of mental clarity, free from the turmoil of overthinking. 5. Reframe your thoughts, the power of perspective. Finally, Marcus Aurelius often reframed his thoughts to ensure he was perceiving situations accurately and calmly. He would frequently remind himself that events themselves are neutral and that it's our perceptions that create disturbance. This practice of reframing is a powerful way to break free from overthinking. When you're overthinking, ask yourself, am I seeing this situation as it truly is, or am I letting my emotions and fears distort it? Reframing allows us to reinterpret challenges and uncertainties in a more logical and Stoic light. How to apply this? Question your thoughts. When overthinking, ask yourself whether your thoughts are an accurate representation of reality. Are you imagining worst-case scenarios that may never happen? Adopt a Stoic perspective. Reframe the situation as an opportunity to practice virtue, patience, or resilience. Even negative experiences can be seen as valuable lessons. By consciously reframing our perspective, we can gain the clarity needed to quiet the mind and release the grip of overthinking. Conclusion: your mind is yours to master. In the end, the teachings of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius offer us a profound insight into the power we hold over our minds. While overthinking is a common struggle for many, the Stoic principles laid out by Marcus Aurelius empower us to master our thoughts, emotions, and responses. By embracing the Stoic mindset, we come to understand that while we cannot control every event that occurs in our lives, we can always control how we perceive and react to those events. Overthinking often arises from fear, uncertainty, or the attempt to control the uncontrollable. However, by practicing the dichotomy of control, we can shift our focus to what truly matters, our own thoughts and reactions. With tools like negative visualization, reframing, and a commitment to virtue, we can quiet the noise of the mind and return to a place of calm, clarity, and purpose. Marcus Aurelius lived his life in constant reflection, constantly striving for inner peace despite the chaos that surrounded him. His wisdom reminds us that peace of mind isn't something to be pursued externally, but something to be cultivated from within. The mind, as Marcus wrote, is ours to shape and control, and no matter how turbulent the outside world may be, our inner world remains our own domain. By applying these Stoic practices to our daily lives, we are not only able to calm the storm of overthinking, but we also foster a greater sense of self-discipline, resilience, and wisdom. The journey toward mastering our minds is ongoing, but with Marcus Aurelius as our guide, we are equipped to face whatever challenges may arise with peace, confidence, and clarity. Ultimately, the Stoic path is not about perfection, it's about progress. Every moment spent reflecting, every choice to control our thoughts and reactions, brings us one step closer to a life of inner peace. Your mind is yours to master. Embrace the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, and let it guide you to the calm, clarity, and strength that you deserve.